Back when I was a beginning storyteller, yes, this all began as a professional storyteller. Yeah, there is such a thing. No, we don't make any money. For years I got paid in things like chicken. But for years when I was a professional storyteller, in the beginning, my biggest market, my only market, my only client was the nursing home. And I would go on Tuesday afternoons at 2 o'clock for story hour in the recreation room, which I thought was an odd name for a room that had very little recreation in it. It was hot in there, real hot, like 400 degrees in that room, and everybody had on sweaters. And I still remember the furniture, 50 shades of mauve, and how it was shrink-wrapped under disgruntled plastic. And I remember the residents and how they were propped around the room in various degrees of posture, consciousness, and incontinence, like oversized china dolls, while orderlies tucked and patted and wiped and held one-sided conversations in this giant dollhouse where everybody was held in by padlocks to keep them from wandering off to places they could no longer remember. I would go on Tuesdays and I would take my keyboard. Originally, I grew up being groomed to be a concert pianist and left that life mainly because of that voice on my shoulder that said, "You're not good enough. Why do it if you can't be the best? No, that spotlight's too big for you." But I would still take my keyboard when I'd go tell these people stories, because if the story didn't connect, the music would. And all of a sudden, the melody would pull them in to a memory. And I would just sit there mesmerized as those china dolls would come to life and remind me, shame on me, that they weren't china dolls. They're people, our neighbors, our families, our teachers, our vets, people who were just trapped in bodies and minds that no longer obeyed. And I remember right up front, every Tuesday afternoon, sat Ethel P. Waters in her purple velour jumpsuit and overly zealous matching eyeshadow. Oh, Ethel loved Tuesdays. Not so much for the stories, but because Ethel loved the music, because Ethel loved to sing. She would get so excited. She would clap and she would jump up and down as she would sing, and she would get so excited that oversized gnarled thumb of hers that had knitted a chain of baby blankets from coast to coast would get caught at the silver ring at the top of her zipper. And she would jump up and down and bounce and sing, and she would take that zipper with her all the way up and all the way down. All the way down. Proving to everyone within vision not clouded by cataracts that Ethel P. Waters did not like undergarments. I'm just saying. Giving us all a bird's eye view of that tattoo she'd had put on her chest in the day that had once been a rose bush. Now, it's more like a hanging basket. There's just some things you can't unsee. Oh, but Ethel, she would get so excited every Tuesday because she'd wait for me to say, "Ethel, what song do you want to hear?" And I would hope she'd pick a different song. I'd pray she'd pick a different song. But every week she'd pick the same song. And she'd wait for me to play the intro and for me to say, "Ethel, are you ready?" And she'd nod and I'd say, "All right, Ethel, take it away." And in a gravelly voice, much like mine, she would. And she'd sing her favorite song. You gotta give a little, take a little, and let your poor heart break a little. That's the glory of, that's the story of love. And we'd all clap. Yay, Ethel. She was so happy. Yeah, she was my number one fan. But not Ruth. Not Ruth, who sat in the back in a faded gray house dress and matching expression. No, Ruth had eyes only for Teddy. Teddy, who came on Thursdays in his torn jeans and his faded Grateful Dead t-shirt and one of those welcome back Cotter mustaches. Had a battered guitar case with stickers on it to places I'd never heard of. I mean, I was on my way to bigger and better things. I knew this one. I was just stopping off here for some exposure. But I think for Teddy, this was his destination. Oh, but Ruth loved him more and more each week, which, well, was particularly amazing since each week she was meeting him all over again. And sometimes when I least expect it, I could hear him singing her favorite song. Sing a song, sing out loud, sing out strong, sing of good things, not bad, sing out happy, not sad. Eventually I moved on. I did get to different stages, bigger spotlights. Walked away from the keyboard. I mean, come on. Didn't make much sense. Didn't put money in my pocket. Why bother? You're not good enough. And I remember it was years later. I was in the grocery store and I ran into the woman who booked me for that nursing home gig. And so between the avocado and the shaved ham, we caught up. And I finally got around to asking about Ruth, and she said, oh, she just passed. We had her funeral this week. I said, how was it? She said, oh, it was nice. She said, Ruth would have loved it. I said, oh. She said, Teddy was there. Played her favorite song, of course. I was like, wow, Teddy's still coming around. Ooh. And came to her funeral, too, at that. So that's a dedicated worker there. And she said, well, why wouldn't he come? She said, Teddy was her son. And suddenly, any image I had, any dream of my own son becoming president or CEO or just being able to tie a shoe, it crumbled into one vision, one dream, that he would become like the Teddys of the world. A guy in torn jeans and a faded t-shirt who found a new way to love his mother, who used his gift to be somebody else's. Wow. That's the glory of. That's the story of love. As it turns out, Teddy had the bigger spotlight. I was cleaning my house recently and found my piano. Hey, I didn't say I was a good housekeeper. I only clean the parts of my house people see from the street. But I was cleaning my house and ran into my piano. I've been walking past that thing for 15 years. Not even stopping, except maybe to throw something else on top of it. But in this day, in this moment, for some reason, I stopped. I brushed off all the books, pulled out a piece of music, and I just sat down and I began to play. And this time it was different. It wasn't about metronomes or evaluations or concertos or judges. It wasn't about who could be the best. It was just about the music. And it was just about this moment where, I know it sounds strange, but where I was communicating with my Creator through notes that needed no words. And my son came running in. He was 11. He'd never heard me play the piano before. He's like, Mom, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I woke up this morning and I could just play. It's a miracle. Go to church. And he brought his Legos in and he sat down, and he's at that age where he didn't want to spend much time with me anymore. And he sat there on that floor for hours just listening to me play in a moment that I would define as the day I brought the music back into my house. And as I'm sitting there playing, all these thoughts are going through my head. I'm thinking, wow, what if I was given this gift for a reason? What if I'm supposed to be using this music? What if it's just to bring me joy? Or just to stop the world and be able to have some time with my Creator? What if I'm supposed to use my music and it's not about being the best? And it's not about evaluations or judges or how much money you can make from it. It's not about any of that. What if you can use your gift to be somebody else's? And I can't help but wondering if maybe you're thinking the same thing. If you're sitting there on some gift of something that you walked away from that you loved because you thought you weren't good enough, or that you weren't the best, or that it wasn't sensible, that maybe you are sitting on a gift that could be used to unlock somebody else's. Or maybe you already are, and you're just now realizing for the first time what your gift is doing for somebody else, like Teddy's gift was doing for his mother. The spotlight doesn't get any bigger than that. And then that voice came on my shoulder again as I'm playing, that voice that I've tried so hard to kill. That voice that said, you're not good enough. Nobody wants to hear you play. You're going to hit wrong notes. They don't want to hear your music. You don't even like to use PowerPoint. It's too confusing. And you're going to bring a keyboard? Please. You're already weird in your industry. This is only going to make you weirder. Don't do it. But then that bigger voice, but what if? And I remember my husband came home and I said, honey, I need to talk to you. I said, I got to tell you something, and it's going to sound weird. He said, that's all right. I'm used to it. I said, I feel led to bring the music back. He said, all right, let's go. And we went out that week and bought an electric piano, full 88 keys. I don't even know how I'm going to get the thing on the airport. It weighs about 80 pounds. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to trust, and we'll bring the music back. And I remember I went, because I believe in acting on your new truth as soon as possible. No going back. I remember I took the keyboard to one of my events, and maybe one of you in the audience is sitting there listening right now. But you wouldn't know how scared I was. My heart was hammering. I didn't even know how to plug the thing in. I'm going up to the AV guy going, here's a chord. Do I need to mic the keyboard? I was afraid I'd hit the wrong notes. I wasn't sure that the music would even stay up on the stand right. I had to turn to the side. So they're getting the side view of me, which is not my best angle. Girl's got a little junk in her trunk, I'm just saying. And the dashboard and the console. But focus. But I did it. I did it. 800 women, and I did it. I played. I brought the music back. And I'm not going to tell you how it went. I'm not going to tell you if I hit wrong notes. I'm not going to tell you if it was good enough. Because it doesn't matter. It's not what it's about. It's not about being the best. It's about using my gift to be somebody else's. So when I came back and friends said, hey, how did it go? I said, perfectly. All those voices going through my head. Sometimes they make you afraid. But sometimes the dream is bigger than the fear. Sometimes you just gotta sing a song. Don't worry if it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing. Sing your song.